Well, hello, and welcome to the Charlotte Mason Enrichment Podcast. I'm your host, Elise Thompson. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode and this podcast. I'm excited today to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is how to establish a Charlotte Mason community. Community's been a really big part of my homeschooling journey. And so any opportunity that I get to speak on it and to bring people in that have powerful stories, I am here for it. And so today I'm excited to bring a lady that is very passionate about community and has a really cool story that I'm sure that you guys will learn a lot from. So please join me in welcoming Jenna Pedersen to the podcast. Welcome, Jenna.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes, so glad you joined us. So I was thinking about it. I'm like, I think I just met you over Instagram. It's just how we connected through the year, which is so fun.
That's right.
And we do have a mutual friend that we both know in person. And so, but we've just connected on Instagram. And so it's been so wonderful just to watch your journey and how you're like homeschooling your kids and how you guys have moved and established community through that. And so really, again, grateful to have you on the podcast today.
Yeah.
Well, for those that don't know you, would you just mind telling us a little bit about your family and just about your homeschooling journey?
Yeah, so I have a current year 4 and year 2. We have been homeschooling since the beginning. I was a public school teacher, and so my plan was I was going to stay home while my kids were little and then go back to the classroom when they were older. I actually met a friend at church who was actually a CC mom, and she told me to follow the Wild and Free Instagram page because those were my people. And I was like, I don't really know what you mean by that, but okay. And so I went and checked it out, and she was really encouraging me to look into homeschooling and consider it. And then my oldest was ready for kindergarten during 2020, which was like a whole thing, right? And so I watched that roll through the schools. She was ready, but not old enough. So we decided we would just homeschool kindergarten and see what that looked like. And then we've never looked back. It's been such a blessing. So we have done a variety of Charlotte Mason things. We started off Charlotte Mason inspired and then have gotten progressively more Charlotte Mason as we have gone on through the years. So we've moved several times, and now we're down in Southwest Missouri, and we have a little homestead and kind of do the rural living thing down here.
That's really cool. So did you guys find out about Charlotte Mason through the Wild and Free group that you were a part of?
Yeah, so I didn't have a group when we first decided to homeschool, but I read Ainsley's book, The Call of the Wild and Free, and that was a really important thing for me to be able to see the different philosophies, because if you just are starting and you search homeschool curriculum, there's 80 million options available, and if you don't know what you're looking for, it's really hard to find what you're actually wanting. And so through that book, I found Charlotte Mason, and that led me to For the Children's Sake, which just was the tipping point for me. So I feel like that book is the tipping point for a lot of people.
Yeah. That was my first book, and I was hooked. Yeah. So that's so neat. Okay. So, obviously you mentioned you guys have moved a lot. And so tell me about how kind of community became an important component for your homeschool.
Yeah. So when we first got married, we lived in Oklahoma, and then with toddlers, we moved to Nebraska, and then we moved to Kansas City, and then we moved down here to where we currently are. And so I have gone through the finding friends phase quite a few times as an adult, which is hard for a lot of people, myself included. It was really difficult to find friends. And then when we decided to homeschool, I knew that that was going to be another level. I feel like it's a pretty common thing to be like, how will you socialize your kids? And then we all joke that, there's a million opportunities, but you have to be intentional still. And you have to seek them out and find the right ones that are a good fit. And it's especially harder as they're getting older. So I knew that was something that I really wanted to emphasize for myself as much as for my kids, because I didn't know what I was doing. And I needed the other moms around me to ask questions and learn from and gain their wisdom and have that kind of backbone of support as I'm doing something that nobody else has done in my family. We're all a bunch of teachers. And so it was very different for me to decide to go this route instead.
Yeah.
But I just knew that that was something I needed to find and quickly. We
Yeah.
had lived in Montana before we moved down here for 5 months. And so we were by ourselves with just my husband's parents for like 5 or 6 months before we moved here, which was fine. It was a blessing and we loved it. But when we got here, we were like, okay, it's time to have friends again. And especially for my girls, it was really important that we get plugged in quickly. So I kind of hit the ground boots running when we moved down here.
Yeah, that's really great. Okay, so you're in a brand new city, and so you live in a homestead. So I'm guessing that's, a little out of like probably where, all the Walmarts and stuff, grocery stores are. And so how did you go about finding your people?
Yeah, so we live around the Springfield area, and there's quite a few small communities that kind of circle Springfield like any larger town. And so I just thought a lot about like, what do I want my group to be? What do I want to emphasize? I knew one other homeschool mom in the area through a mutual friend who texted me and her and said, you guys should meet. And so we did that. And then I just joined every homeschool Springfield Facebook group I could find. And I posted like the graphic I made in Canva and a detailed description of what we were going to be doing. And I just opened it up to the world. I was so nervous. I remember texting the friend that the one person I knew, being like, hey, I'm going to do this. Do you want to do it with me? And I was on pins and needles all day because it's hard to put yourself out there. And then when I put all those posts out there, I was like, oh no. And so I was really nervous, but people are looking for community always. And so the response to it was really great. And we've kind of grown and morphed from what that original group was into what we are now. But that's kind of where it all started.
That's cool. Okay. So I got to pause because I'm like listening to you talk and I'm like, oh, I think this is an important thing for people to hear is that you looked for groups or other homeschoolers, but you were starting what you wanted. And I think that is like key is that a lot of times people are looking for things that are already started, but sometimes you've got to be the one that just says, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna start what I want and like figure it out as I go. Cause you obviously never done that before because new homeschool mom and family. And so, and in a new state and city. And so like, you're just like, okay, I really want this. So I'm going to start this.
Yeah. So I had helped run a wild and free group in Kansas City before we moved down here when my girls were really little, but we were only there for about 18 months. And so I helped with that group for maybe a year but I didn't start it. They asked me once I joined if I would help coordinate events. Organization is kind of my jam. And so I like to be on that side of things. But yeah, when I moved down here, I knew what I was looking for, and either the groups were full or they weren't at a time that worked for us, or there was something else that just wasn't quite right. And so that's why I was like, okay, we're just going to start fresh and see what the Lord does.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's so good because sometimes, we can be discouraged if there isn't something that, like you said, works with our schedule and, isn't full. That's another big hindrance for people to, enter into groups is those two components, or it's not close to me or whatever. And so I love that you just decided like, I'm going to start something. And I think that, that can be a word to somebody is don't be afraid to start, and you only knew one person and it's grown. And so I know you had mentioned when you first started that group, it was just, you were very specific about what you wanted to do, but it wasn't necessarily like you have to be a wild and free homeschooler or Charlotte Mason educator. It was just, hey, if what we're doing interests you, like, come on through.
Yeah, so we started out with field trips and hiking. And originally I said, we're going to go on field trips every week. And then I was like, no, wait, that's way too many things to plan. So we quickly dropped to that. I think we did like 4. And I was like, I'm out on the field trips. But we still would do them periodically, just not weekly. So then we switched to just hiking and nature journaling. And then as our group grew, and our kids grew, is really the big thing here, is that when my girls were 6 and 4, when we moved here, we could spend all day on Thursday playing and hiking, and that would be totally fine. Now that our school is more rigorous and we have other obligations, our time is more precious. And so we had to kind of hone in on what was going to be the best use of our time while still being the most blessings as far as that community goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, we switched from field trips and hiking all the time into more of what we're doing now. And as that transition came, we became more specifically Charlotte Mason, because that's what we were needing the support in. I went to a conference and there was just lots of questions about Charlotte Mason and lots of not really understanding. And so it was really like eye-opening to me to be like, oh, people are curious about this and people are looking for this. And so since then, there's been another Charlotte Mason group that's opened up down here, which I am so excited about. There's just been lots of really great growth in that community that we've been able to see. And I've been really excited that that's kind of an area that we've been able to take our group more specifically into.
That's really cool. So it's neat to hear how the group has grown with you, with your family, as your family's needs have changed and grown. There's been people that have come alongside of you, which I think is so great. Like, again, the goal is not perfection. Like when you start these groups or you feel like I have to know everything and I have to, be super organized or, like none of that stuff matters, because at the end of the day, it comes down to we're doing life with people who we have some of the same desires and goals and how we home educate. And that can be a really great starting point, and you can kind of figure it out as you go along, is I'm assuming how it's worked for you guys.
Yeah, because Charlotte Mason is such a specific niche of homeschooling that if you don't have people who are doing that also, there's a lot of not understanding why you're doing the things that you're doing, and why don't we have an extensive writing curriculum, and why don't we have extensive science curriculum in year 3. Like there's just not a lot of, which is not saying that everybody has to be Charlotte Mason, right? It's just that that's what we were doing. And so I really wanted the support in that specifically, because otherwise it can be really isolating to feel like you're the only ones doing it this way, and not to have the understanding in your community of kind of what it is that you're trying to achieve in your home as well as your school.
Yeah, no, that's so good. It's like you can talk about things like narration and copy work and stuff, and they get you. Like it's good. You don't have to. That is so great. Okay, so some pros of having a very specific, group is like, we're like-minded. We're even reading some of the same things, and we're learning about the same things as we go. So there's a lot of benefits to having, a Charlotte Mason specific in-person community. I'm all for online stuff. Like that's great that we have that option, but there's just nothing like, meeting face to face with people on a consistent basis.
100%, especially for our kids, right? Because we can find online community that's fulfilling. But that's not really an option for my 8-year-old, And it's so important for our kids also. Like, it's so fun to me to listen to them at co-op day where we're in the classroom, where they're like talking about one of them loves Winston Churchill and the other one couldn't stand any of her Churchill readings. And it's just so funny to hear all of the things that Charlotte Mason kids get that they don't find a lot of other places necessarily. And so that's been really good, I think, for the kids, especially as they're getting older, that they've got kids who have similar experiences as far as their schooling goes.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Okay, so you guys have evolved into a co-op from your community. Okay, tell us about that.
Yeah, so I've really pushed back on the word co-op for a long time because I was like, no, we're just a group of moms that like to go hiking together and that's it. But then as my kids got older, again, we had to prioritize what time we were willing to spend doing certain things. And I needed accountability because, as you probably have experienced in Charlotte Mason, there's so much richness, but sometimes it gets dropped for the checklists. And so I found myself leaving off the meat of what I wanted from a Charlotte Mason education that got put by the wayside because we needed to do math and music and other things first, And so we started doing what we call Riches Days, where we have we started with folk songs and hymns. We started with artist study, composer study, a handicraft. And as we have grown and our kids have grown, and now we have added some new families that have high school kids, we now have 2 different grades that we do, or 2 different classes. Next year, we're adding a 3rd, specifically high school class. But we also do things like full text Shakespeare plays and Plutarch and art composition and things like that. That have been really fun to be able to add into, because I needed it, right? I wasn't doing those at home. And so I was like, well, if I make a group that does it, then I have to also do it.
Yeah, that's beautiful accountability.
Yes. So if everybody else is waiting for me to teach this, then it'll get that.
Yeah, very true. Very true. There's, some people that are really expecting it. And those things are really beautiful to get to do, amongst, other people, as opposed to, it's kind of hard but hard to do a Shakespeare play, with you and your 2 kiddos. So
right, exactly. Yeah. It's much more fun with all of their friends there to do it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. So you mentioned that in your co-op and your community, there's been some high schoolers that have joined that you guys are going to start offering classes for. Mm-hmm. And, you mentioned in your past life, you were a teacher and you taught high school. And so, obviously teaching high school, you've got to be passionate about it. And so tell us a little bit about just your passion for, high school students still experiencing community, as they progress in their education.
Yeah, I think it's pretty common in co-ops to see you get to like 12 and then the kids kind of drop off. They start staying home. They don't have the time. They don't have the desire because they don't feel like everybody else is, 8 and under. And so I was like that when kids turned 6, I joined a co-op, right? That's what everybody with the 6-year-old does, myself included. But that makes it hard for our older kids. And so I also know that a lot of moms feel like they get to high school and they don't know what to do exactly, or their kids are lonely. And so they go to public school or join a more structured school setting. Obviously, that's not across the board or anything, but that's something I do know happens. And so I really wanted to future-proof our co-op a little bit by making sure that our oldest kids were being fed the feast at group so that they continued to want to come and their moms found it worthwhile for them to continue to come rather than just teaching, the same nature lessons on pumpkins again and again and again that we did every year, which we did. This is no shade at the pumpkin lesson, right? It's just that sometimes you have to evolve past that in order to keep your oldest kids engaged. So my philosophy has always been teach to our oldest kids and everybody else will get what they're ready to get from that, but not necessarily all of the things that are there. So that's something next year I'm really excited to be able to have a specifically high school aged class so we can dive in a little bit more and have the good discussions and have some of the real fruit at that age that they're ready to explore on their own as they become young adults. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm just trying to think in my mind, like, what will I want for my girls when they're 14, 15, 16? And how can I create a community that's still around at that point? Because it's much harder to start from scratch with teens, right? It's much easier to grow into that community that they have been friends with already. So how can we create that structure where they feel like this is a place that they belong and have belonged for a while instead of trying to cobble it together with a bunch of 15-year-olds who all feel uncomfortable and don't know how to talk to one another,
No, that's so good. That was my experience. We obviously didn't, find Charlotte Mason until my oldest was, pretty far into her into her school, path. And so when we found it, it was pretty hard too. And she didn't end up doing Charlotte Mason, but that was part of it. It was like, I don't know these people and they've already been together for many years. So it was kind of hard to, for her to acclimate to a completely different way of learning and living. And so I think it's really great that you do have the end in mind. So that, this can be something that will be enjoyable and beneficial to your children and to your family as, they continue on. Because a lot of people, they want to probably continue homeschooling, but you are met with, a lot of unknowns as you go, and sometimes it can feel as they get older, it's like, oh, this is, this is getting, the level of intensity and I guess the quote unquote realness of
Yeah.
it can, feel a little more daunting. And so just creating those structures in place that are there to support homeschooling families so that they can finish their journey on the path. Because I
Yeah.
think we all want that,
Mhm.
every situation is different. But if we don't have all the components for us to be able to see that we can do it well, then
Yeah.
it can't be, you can undo some of the good things that you've already put in place. And so,
Absolutely. And I just never want a lack of community to be the reason people quit. You know what I mean? There are lots of reasons people might stop homeschooling. Maybe they get jobs or they're just busier or lots of things, but I don't want it to be because they felt like they didn't have a place. And so
right.
that's what we're really trying to focus on. And with that comes the emphasis on our nature days, right? We still do those because it's hard to build community when you just do like Shakespeare, artist, Plutarch, bam, 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 and we're there for 3 hours and then we're done. But the nature days are a good balance for that because they can get out and they can hike and they can just be kids together still.
Yeah.
And we've tried to build in like pockets of time for those older kids. Our younger kids are all happy to go out to the playground after class and, play for the next 2 hours. But our older kids, that's not something that they're always super stoked to do anymore. And so we've started like they'll bring board games and they'll stay inside and they'll play board games together after class is over instead of going outside. And so we're trying to do that in order to make them feel like they have a group that's there for them that they can feel in real community with outside of just classroom time also.
That's so good. Yeah, that's so good. So being aware of like the things that are a little more transactional, like they definitely serve a specific purpose, and then other things where it's like just relational. Like we're just, if you had to give it a goal, the goal is just to hang out and to, hang out with friends.
Yeah.
That's important. So
I've been really blessed with really awesome moms of our teens that they have taken that concept and that to heart. And so they'll have other events for just the teens to go do and they'll drop them. So that's been really cool too, to see the way that that's kind of grown outside of me, which I love.
Yeah, that's great. So you're kind of spearheading like maybe the vision for, hey, like we want to make sure that we're offering things, for these older students.
Yeah, it's been really neat to see how all the moms work together. Our group has been so blessed with such great mother culture as well as for the kids, which has been, I think, a key thing. That's one thing when people ask about starting a co-op, that I always tell them is you have to nourish the mothers in the same way that you're going to nourish the kids. Because if the moms are friends and want to be there, they're going to come much more likely than even if their kids don't want to go, right? If you can get the moms to be friends, I need that time together. And so we're going to go because I need to go on a hike with all of my friends. And so that's something that we've tried to put an emphasis on as well.
Man, that is so good. So you guys do like, you go through the volumes together. Is that kind of what you do? Or you just pick books to read together?
Yeah, so we've done a couple different things. We have never tackled the volumes together, but we've done different homeschooling books, and then we'll also pick fiction books and do just straight up book clubs together. So we just finished Middlemarch. Next, we're reading Tending the Heart of Virtue, and then we'll go back to a classic fiction book. So we kind of alternate back and forth between those two in order to feed, both the homeschool side of us and also the person side of us. So we're trying to cultivate that so that we feel connected as a community together, because when that connection is strong, the connection with all of our kids is easier because there's that other layer to it.
Man, that's so good. So it's not like, oh, we just all have kids and we're dropping them off or whatever, like really connecting and doing life together. I love that. Okay. And you guys do, I think you guys have said you guys have done retreats before and all different kinds of things.
Yeah. So we did a retreat. Last year's retreat got snowed out. So it's been a couple of years now since we've gone, but we did a group conference, and then we would listen to the conference talks together and stayed at a friend's lake house. And it was so good to just have like dedicated time in order to kind of grow those bonds. And so that's something we definitely want to continue looking for ways to do, whether it's just day-long things where we go to somebody's house for a full Saturday is on the table for this year. But it's definitely a priority for us because of that. And also I want that wisdom. I glean so much from the other moms in our group that I feel so refreshed and encouraged to be able to ask all of my questions, and ask all of the things from the different perspectives, because I have done a lot of research and listening and reading, but to see it acted out in other homes is different. And so that's so helpful to be able to get that real life, practical, boots on the ground kind of interaction.
Yay. Oh, I love it. It's so good. It's so good. Man, if you're not doing life with people, my friend, you're doing it wrong. Got to do it with people. Okay, Jenna. So what would you say to the mom that's like, man, your story is so inspiring and I want that, but I feel a little afraid to like put myself out there. Like what words of encouragement would you give to a mom that may be having those feelings?
Yeah. So I was nervous when I started our group. I was like, I remember telling my husband, like, what if nobody wants to sign up? What if everybody's like laughing at me? Which why would they be? Because they don't know me. And it's a Facebook post. If anything, they're just going to ignore it and move on with their life, but that's not what your mind does. And so one thing my mom always told me growing up was everybody wants to be included, but not very many people are willing to be the includer. And so you have to be willing to be uncomfortable to find the community that you're wanting. We've moved several times and I just adopted the philosophy that I'm just going to pretend that we're best friends until I get a clear sign that we're not, and then I can move on, So just be willing to be a little bit awkward and be a little bit out there. I have been known to like hear a mom say that they're Charlotte Mason and intentionally like slide my way over there to try to talk to them and get her to join my co-op, so
the children's sake, can you bet that one?
Just like slowly drop this over there. Yeah. So it's just, it's hard and it's not always easy and it's not always successful. There's not always like yes, do these 4 things and you'll have a magical group, right? That just sometimes is not the way that it works out. But I do think the being okay, being the instigator. Lots of people want organized things. Not a lot of people are willing to organize them. And lots of people want community, but nobody is willing to put themselves out there. So I would just say you've got to put that part aside and know that the Lord is going to bless your heart in that movement. If that's what you're seeking. Then that's what you're going to be able to find if you can get over my own mental pride block, right?
That's good.
So that's what I always try to remind myself is like, I can be the includer in this. If you have a doubt, if you should ask them to join, then you probably should. So
yeah. Okay. Share that quote your mom said one more time, because that's gold. I'm gonna write that down.
She just says that everybody wants to be included, but not everybody's willing to be the includer.
So we got to be the includer.
You got to be the includer. Yeah. Most people are lonely. Most people don't have community and most people don't have people around them to love on them. And so if we can build a place for that, then what a blessing that would be to them, Yeah.
No, that's so good. And Jenna, thank you so much for just sharing your journey and sharing what you've learned along the way. I know I feel really inspired and encouraged, and I'm excited I get to meet some of your community soon at the Charlotte Mason Enrichment Conference. And so I'm excited just to meet the people that you get to do life with. And for those who are listening who, don't have community, like, again, if you're doing it by yourself, you're doing it wrong. There are people out there that are Charlotte Mason or that have enough similarities that you can do life with and build, something beautiful to really enrich and enhance your homeschooling journey. So, Jenna, thank you again for sharing your story. Well, friends, that's all the time that we have for this episode, but don't worry, we'll be back again very soon with another episode. Please share this with other people that you think this would be a blessing to. I'm really grateful for the time we've had today. I want to remind you, like Charlotte says, that the only true education is self-education. So we're never going to stop learning and we're never going to stop growing. And I will see you on the next episode. Yay!